Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever you're listening. We're happy you are with us, and welcome to the Night to the Round Table podcast, episode 17. I'm Jack Kaiser. As always, remember that you can find the links and clips to all our episodes across our social media platforms. Just search at BU Nights. It's the end of May. It is warm, and that's great. That also means sports are done at Bellarmine, and for the most part, across college athletics. So we're talking to a lot of coaches lately. And today we have the head coach of the women's tennis team, Brian Slack. Brian, how are you?
I'm fantastic. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm doing great. We were just talking about it. It's kind of a slow time of year. So what's going on for you right now?
Recruiting, and more recruiting. So, it's just one of those. I think as every college coach knows, the transfer portal is hot, and you're looking and trying to see if you can just add that one extra player or what you can do and how you can make your team a little bit better. So, it's just recruiting and trying to find some new players to come in here and put on the night uniform and see what we can do.
So outside of the transfer portal, are you traveling like all over the country right now?
Not so much. A couple weeks ago, I went to Canada for 3 days to see a G4, international ITF event, and watch some players up there for a few days. But then other than that, it's, tournaments or high school season is just kind of finishing up. Tournaments are just starting to get going here the middle of June and so forth. So I'll kind of hit the Midwest area and find those future players, most likely for that 23 class and beyond. So that's kind of where we're at, and we'll see where we're going.
So when do you travel the most?
Besides season?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
So, summer. It's going to be June, July,
where
we're going to do quite a bit. December is kind of those events down in Florida where you can go down and get, an Eddie Herr, which is in the Bradenton area at IMG. The Orange Bowl is down in South Florida the week after, basically. So those you can kind of hit in December. But, yeah, other than that, it's the summer months are the tennis months. So we'll rock and roll. Gotcha.
Well, you just wrapped up your first season. You've had about 6 weeks to reflect on it. So what are your thoughts?
It was good. Obviously every coach looks at it and you want more wins and all that. But, I knew coming in that it was going to be a process and we needed to change the mindset of some of the girls that were on the team, and you needed to kind of settle the boat a little bit. For the seniors that I had, I was their fourth coach in 4 years. And so for them, it was just kind of settling the boat. I'm going to be here. I'm not going anywhere. And let's get to work. And for those girls who are those juniors and seniors and came in as Division II and were thrown into, hey, we're playing Division I tennis now, and then I upped the schedule a little bit more with the type of teams that we were playing. It was, we're going to go into individuals. We're going to do practice is going to be different. And it's the first time for some of those girls that they've ever done those sort of things and done individuals on top of the team practice aspect of things. So we got a lot better. You saw the progress, and the girls were eager to get on the court and practice and do a little bit more even on their own time. So it was good. It was a good first year, kind of set the culture of how things are going to go moving forward and what we were going to do and how we're going to represent ourselves and how we're going to practice. And the schedule doesn't get any easier. We're playing some of those same teams again next year and, bring in a little bit more talent each year and see where we go.
So you mentioned the process and you understood that maybe the wins don't come right away. Was it still difficult for you coming from places where you're winning national championships to, what happened this past year?
Yeah, it was tough. It was one of those, I think my wife and my kids back at home, for me to be able to unwind. But yeah, I think the losses this year, I may be reaching the total of my losses as a head coach in my career.
Right.
But we got better. And that was the light at the end of the tunnel of, you look back, we played some of those same teams last year. Before I got here, we played those same teams this year. And the coaches are sitting there at the end of matches saying, man, you guys are a lot better. Or you guys are in matches. We're in sets. We're splitting sets with some teams that we weren't even close to last year. Madison, for one, lost to a girl last year, 6-1, 6-1, and turns around and wins against the exact same girl, 7-5, 7-6 this year. So to see that process and see those things happen, it was exciting. Those are the things that I think, we kind of put in our mind and sit there and say, man, we did get a lot better this year. We did put in the work. There is, opportunities to get a lot better throughout the year. So, it was difficult at times to sit there and say, man, like, it's another loss. But at the same time, you saw the girls' eyes kind of light up each match and kind of say, man, I got a lot better today. Or, I didn't even compete against this girl last year. So that was the good thing, and the kind of the icing on the cake for me to be able to see that we are going in the right direction.
So the way I've always viewed it is, with tennis being an individual sport, and what you just said confirms it, I think, you work on the individual, and eventually if you have enough individual success, then the team success just follows after that.
Correct. I mean, it's that fine line. The way I recruit, the way I do things, and the way I find the right players is it's a team concept. We're going to come together as a team, but it's difficult because the fall for us is a very individual. It's all, what did I do? How did I do things? Did I get better individually? Because there's no team scores in the fall. And then you get to the spring and it's thrown upon you that it's all team results.
Right.
But those individuals kind of push each other throughout the year. And that's what this team, I think, really did well this year, was individually pushing themselves, also pushed other teammates to get a lot better on court this year. And so, it's a fine line. But you find those kids that are personality-wise mesh together very well to be able to drive that team success a lot more and take away that individual spotlight.
So you mentioned team result, and I want to hit on this before we move on. The way the scoring works for matches, once a team reaches 4 or however many points they need to win, you stop all of the other matches, and that impacts the individual results. I mean, what do you think of that?
It's tough. Some of those things, we did a lot of that this year and stopped matches at 4 because we played a lot of our home matches here at home indoors. And so with only 3 indoor courts, you're trying to fix the scheduling of, does a team need to travel? Where are they traveling to after that match? And coaches discuss it kind of beforehand of, where are you going? I got to travel 4 hours from here. So can we stop once the match is clinched at 4 points? Yeah, no problem. It is what it is. But, in our conference, it's one of those things as well that we played a lot of besides the last 2 matches at home, we played everything indoors. And so only being 3 courts and knowing that the guys are playing right after us at the same time.
Right.
It made it tough. It's tough on the girls. You had Ashley Jonathan, who was a 6th year for us this year, who was on the brink of having the most wins in school history, and she got a lot of matches stopped throughout the year that she probably would have broke the record. But it was one of those tough just because of where we're at and only the 3 indoor courts and a men's match being afterwards. So it's difficult, but at the same time, I think the girls buy into that aspect, and sooner than later, we'll be the team that's clinching those matches at 4 points and not the other way around and getting clinched. So it's good.
Yeah, right. That's a good way to look at it. So what about the Bellarmine job appealed to you most?
I think just the kind of the ground level of where it was at. That transition from Division II into Division I, it's close to home for me. I mean, I've from 2012 to 15, I was in New York. 15 to 19, basically 15 to 21, I was in Florida. So to come back to the Midwest for me was obviously nice. I know the Louisville area well. I've had a lot of my kids from the junior college level transfer to U of L. So I knew the area. I knew what I was getting myself into. I know the coaches and being able to build a schedule. The vision that Scott and Pam had for the program and where we were going. And I like the women's side. I feel like on the women's side, you can, as a coach, you can influence a match a little bit easier than on the men's side for me. It's, as a male, you feel like you have all the answers sometimes, especially in your sport. The women's side, you can influence some things a little bit more, and I really like coaching the women's side. I enjoy coaching the men's side, but at the same time, just that influence of what you have. And I think part of it is having a wife and 2 daughters at the same time. I'm around the female side all the time, and it's the side that I like being on. So, being at Bellarmine, being in the ASUN, which me being down in Florida, I knew a lot of those schools. It seems like a lot of junior college kids have transferred into the ASUN conference, men's and women's tennis side. So just that Bellarmine, just kind of the small small school atmosphere. My wife coached at Butler, and it was that same type of atmosphere of a small school. She coached softball there, so it was that small school family atmosphere that the athletics can kind of drive kind of enrollment at the school and help things out. And everybody's a big family. Our coaching staffs all the way through are always very supportive of each other, so it's just been a really good mix, and it was a really good fit at the right time for me.
So how old are your daughters right now?
8 and 5.
Okay, so are they playing softball or tennis?
So the oldest is softball through and through. She's soccer as well, basketball. The youngest wants to be on Sissy's team, on their sister's team as much as possible. But obviously that age gap makes it a little difficult. So she's kind of sits out and watches a lot of things right now. But I think that for our oldest, once she turned 6, was when really she became that individual and really driven. She'll be the softball as well, which is completely fine by me, by all means. So it works.
So no tennis on the horizon right now?
Not right now. Okay. I could see the youngest one probably going that route, but right now it's softball.
Yeah. So you mentioned you live in Indy. You went to Perry Meridian High School.
Yep.
For those that don't know, that's about like an hour and a half away on a good day. How do you occupy yourself in the car?
It's recruiting. You talk to some coaches, you recruit. It's one of those when I'm talking or, emailing back and forth with a recruit, you sit there and say, I'm available during this time during a drive down, or I'm available on this drive on my way home. And you get pretty lucky because you're on 65 going south or north that you don't really fall into a whole lot of, dead zones on the cell phone or anything like that. So it's pretty simple to just get on the phone and recruit. Or for me, I'm talking to other coaches or listening to podcasts and so forth on my way down and way back up. But yeah, it's monotonous at this point. It's one of those, I think my car could drive itself, but it's good. I enjoy it. I enjoy coming to the job every single day. Going home, it allows me to unwind before I get home with the family at the same time. So overall, it's perfect.
Yeah, when I heard you live just south of Indy, I could relate to you because I live over in Lexington, and it's just a bit of a shorter drive, about an hour and 15. But I've been making that same drive the last month because I've been going back to Indy getting ready for this wedding. And you're right. I mean, the drive becomes monotonous, but you try to find ways to stay productive with it, and usually that's phone calls.
That's correct.
Yeah. So no, that's great. And growing up, you obviously played tennis in high school, but when did it really hit home for you that this is what I want to do?
I think for me, I played baseball, basketball, and tennis all the way growing up. Going into my 8th grade year, my private coach kind of looked there at me and said, what do you want to do? Where are you going to look to go to college? What are you going to do in college? Every American boy plays baseball. Almost every American boy plays basketball growing up, especially in the state of Indiana. What do you want to do? And I said, all right, tennis will be, I knew I was good, but, let's drive it this way. Going off to college, I think my freshman into my sophomore year, I went to a JUCO. I went to Vincennes University.
Yep.
And the coach that I had there, who at the time I probably didn't understand and get along with the most because you're an 18, 19-year-old young boy that has a lot of testosterone going. But this was a man who, is 20 years my elder and was in my wedding. So to see how the progression and seeing how he coached, and I was kind of told at that time, listen, you have a coach mindset overall. So I think going freshman into sophomore year, I kind of decided, all right, do I want to go the high school route? Do I want to go the college route? Where do I want to coach? How do I want to do those things? And then one of my other best friends is the U of L women's assistant on the women's side and coaches tennis. And I had gone to his tournaments in French Lick, Indiana from the time I was 12. And he was coaching at Morehead State, which since then has dropped their program. But it was one of those, he gave me an opportunity to go and coach with him. And that's where I really found, all right, this is something I want. I like the battle of recruiting. I like going in and talking to players and talking to people and showing the vision of what I want and what I'm looking for. He kind of gave me those tools. So I would say that freshman year with Ron Albers and then that 2006 year with Kevin Fulton at Morehead State would have probably been those visions of, all right, this is the route I'm going, and I'm going to go full head of steam ahead and make it happen.
So you really seem to like the the different aspects of college tennis. Do you watch any pro tennis at all?
Of course. Yeah, I mean, French Open is going on right now, so it's a time change, obviously, which makes it's a little bit easier with the French and Wimbledon than the Aussie because of the time difference. But yeah, I'm watching probably not as much as I used to because I'm a Federer fan.
Okay.
And Fed's my favorite, and with him being out right now and not playing, it's a little more difficult for me to watch a little bit, just because if he's playing, I'm probably up at any hour watching him and tuned in with what he's doing. But with him being out, it's not been as prevalent, I guess.
Is he the GOAT?
He's the GOAT. I mean, there's others that are obviously in the talks, but to me, he's done it all. He's won on every single surface, and yes, Wimbledon has been a lot, but it's not to me the Nadal of winning, almost everything on the French on the red clay. So yeah, to me, Fed's the GOAT, but you'll be in any fight and discussion with Djokovic and Nadal and Fed and so forth. So.
Right. I've always been a Nadal fan personally.
I'm sorry.
I'm extremely casual. Like, I don't have the same tennis knowledge as you, like, even microscopic. Like, it's not even close. But, like, I watched the semifinals and the championship for the majors. I mean, that's pretty much it.
Fair.
And I don't know why. I always liked Nadal as a kid. And it's been fun to see him, Federer, and Djokovic all play at the same time. And I don't think we really grasp that we're watching the three greatest players of all time play at the same time.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those, I don't think you realized, I mean, obviously I was young at the time, but the Sampras and Agassi and those times, and, before that, you had the Beckers and the Lindels and so forth. And so there's been those players who have done something special and kind of battled, but not these three, at the top of their game, with 20-plus majors each and just fighting it out. And, you look at the record books and it's like every single tournament, it's one of those three basically. Yeah. And you get a couple here and there that sprinkle in, but the dominance of what they've done over time is unbelievable. And it's going to be interesting to see who comes after that. And I think they have made the game much better for some of the younger ones that are coming in that are in their mid-20s, late 20s. And they've also changed the game that you can play into much, your prime is still in your middle 30s, which was never thought about before as well. So it's changed the game overall, the three of them.
Have you ever been to any of the Grand Slams?
U.S. Open. I mean, I worked in Brooklyn. So we, as a college coach, you can get, free access into the tournament and all that kind of stuff. So, my 2012 to 2015 time in New York, it was every single day. It was like, I'm not going to be in the office on these days. I will be at the Open. And I spent days and nights. So I was actually there when Fed came out and wore the Jordan Nike shoes, and Jordan was actually in his box at the U.S. Open. So that was a pretty cool night with him wearing those kind of Nike Jordan throwback situations. So it's been cool. I mean, the U.S. Open, to me, is one of the greats. Wimbledon is probably on the bucket list. Mm-hmm. For me, I don't know that I can make the flight over to the Aussie Open. But yeah, I mean, Wimbledon would be one that's on the bucket list for me.
So you mentioned you worked in New York, and outside of home, because obviously that has a special place in your heart, between New York, Kentucky, and Florida, what was your favorite place to live?
I mean, it's tough to wake up every morning to palm trees, right? So, I mean, living down in South Florida, from 15 to 19 as a head coach at ASA Miami. You were in North Miami Beach. It wasn't bad when your office, you look outside the window and it's the intercoastal waters and all that. And the kids are taking an hour break in between class and going on the beach and all those sort of things. So it's not shabby to wake up to those palm trees every single day. New York had its perks. If you ask, I had players that went with me from New York to Miami campus because it was the same school with ASA. Yeah. The kids would tell you that they liked New York more. And if I was a young 18 to 25, 20, whatever, being single, if I were single at that time, yeah, it may be different. I mean, you get at the time, $105 Metro card, and you can ride the city and get anywhere unlimited that you want. I mean, I didn't take a car. out there from 2012 to 15. I just
Wow.
rode the bus and rode the metro, and it's tough because you're always on somebody else's schedule. But for those kids at that time, they spend $100 a month and they can get anywhere in the city and do anything they want. So for some of those athletes, New York was a much better situation. But I think when you look back at it, I think a lot of those kids that transferred with me from New York to Miami, the Florida area, would say about 60% of them still live in the Florida area because they enjoy the weather and enjoy the area down there, and you're playing outdoor tennis year round. So it's different.
Man, New York, just not even taking a car out there, and now you drive an hour and a half every single day.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why I can still do it at this time, because I didn't drive a car out there. There were a couple times I enjoy driving. It's one of those, even as a player. I mean, we took a charter bus on one trip this year, going from Florida Gulf Coast to Kennesaw back up here to Bellarmine, and I like the van rides more than I like a charter bus because you get to learn about your team a little bit more. You get to see the personalities, you get to talk, you get to learn about each other. And some of those trips. I mean, I enjoyed the trip to Central Arkansas to North Alabama, and North Alabama back up here because we were in a van. You're in a 12 pass and kids are talking, they're getting to talk about things, they're doing schoolwork, you're figuring out what they're going to do later in life. We're on a charter bus. I mean, I think, you said a few things here and there, but most people just stretch out and fall asleep and figure it out and go from there. So the driving, yeah, I enjoy the driving. It doesn't bother me by any means. But yeah, also you're on your own time when you're driving. So
Yep.
Being out there in New York, it was always, can I take the B38 bus and what
Yeah.
time does it come or what time does the metro come? So you're always on somebody else's schedule the entire time.
Yeah, I feel like if you work in athletics, you have to be okay with driving and travel and all of that. And
No, of course.
obviously, it's worked well for you. So what's next for the program?
We're going to build. This has been a program kind of figuring out this year, talking to the girls on the team, seniors, juniors. We have a couple freshmen that will now be sophomores. But just talking to the upperclassmen, it's been a team that we've only had really 6 girls on our roster every single year. Mm-hmm. And that was one of those things this year of, I could have brought some players in January. I wanted to ride it out and see, what we were doing this year and give the girls an opportunity and not bring in kind of my own and kind of not miss and just quickly rush and bring somebody in January. This year's team, we're going to have somewhere around 10 to 12 on the roster. So with that brings a lot of competition in practice will be kind of ramped up. But yeah, I mean, the program will make major strides this year. We're bringing in some pretty good recruits, some Americans, some internationals. We only had Kat this year, who was our only international on the team. I think this year coming in, we'll have add 2 or 3 more into that mix, which brings some outside changes for some kids because a lot of it, I mean, I wasn't around any international students all the way growing up until I went to my freshman year in college, and I was the only American on my team at Vincennes.
Wow.
My freshman year, but also my best man in my wedding was my best friend from New Zealand, who was my roommate and my doubles partner and all that. So I think you learn a little bit more. You're also understanding that being 6 hours away from home or 5 hours away from home or 2 hours away from home is very different than a 15, 16-hour flight away from home. So kids mature a little bit. But, yeah, the program, we're going in the right direction. I'm excited about this year. I'm excited about the group that's coming in. I'm excited about the schedule that we've built and what we're doing and how things are looking for this coming year. So it's going to go well. It's looking really, really good moving forward.
Hey, you've got me excited. I can't wait to see what the roster looks like next year and the results as well. Coach, really appreciate the time today.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Jack.
Brian Slack, head women's tennis coach. That does it for KRT episode 17. Subscribe to our YouTube page. Follow us on social media at BU Knights to hear from Coach Slack and all of our other guests. I'm Jack Kaiser, and Swords Up.